Hey, Ronnie Dale, fourwheelingwesternaustralia.com, and I'm shafted right now, literally shafted. Okay, so this is another service video about my 79. Now I've discovered even more problems, massive issues with my suspension. My suspension is completely shafted, pretty much, and my suspension has caused this tail shaft here. This is the front one, prop shaft. It has completely squished this on the sway bar arms, or the sway bar, and has clamped this, so now it doesn't really move backwards and forwards. So I'm going on a trip in a matter of days, and we just discovered this now. We've been working on the electrics. We've been working on the clutch, and when the boys pulled the whole gearbox out, and when they pulled this down, that's when I realized how incorrect my suspension is set up. Now I've had problems with my suspension for about 4.5 years, ever since the day I put it in, and there was a suspension shop put it in. I'm not going to mention their name for legality reasons, but I haven't had anything but issues ever since I went there. So now all the suspension is going to be ripped out, or well, not yet. We're going to put it back together. I'm going to drive it off somewhere else, and they are going to put new suspension in it. Sort it all out once and for all, everything ripped out. The only thing I'm keeping are the parabolics in the rear. And this is happening a day before my trip. So remember that tip I always give you? Don't do any major upgrades or mods, days before a trip. Well, the old saying goes, do what I say, don't do what I do. Travis just said in the background, hey, please put a disclaimer in, we did not touch your suspension on your car, and that is correct. They haven't touched the suspension on my car. It's probably a worthy thing to mention since I am in their shop. But they are the guys that have discovered my issue, thankfully. That was a disaster waiting to happen. Okay, so the full details on my entire suspension saga, the 4.5 years of problems, will be revealed in a later video. I need to be calm and collective so I don't get myself into hot water about the whole situation and start naming names. So stay tuned for that one. I will reveal all. Right, so this is my gearbox, my manual gearbox. We're not replacing the gearbox. So this is going back in, we're replacing the clutch with...
Upgrading the clutch, MPC clutch.
Yep.
So obviously we've got a few noises on yours.
And that's why it's out. The original gearbox and transfer case is going in. Now I'm just going to ask you now, while we can see all this, do you want to tell the guys where the breather is? So
the breather pickup point that does both transfer case and the gearbox is right on top of the bell housing. It's a little pinch clip, pull them off there. So if you are going to install breathers, run that, connect up to your breather kit. You can leave that exposed as well. And like you spotted before, with bell housings. There's
no point in closing that because that's all that's plugging the hole in the bell housing, and you got holes, you got air vents through here too, don't you?
Yeah, all ventilation holes.
Yeah. So that's why, folks, when you do a water crossing, that's why you don't put your foot on the clutch, because water will be hitting right onto the plate because the water actually gets in here. So that's why you select the gear before you enter a water crossing, and you keep it in that gear if you can. Look, obviously if you get stuck, you're going to have to do something. Do what you got to do, but yeah, try not to touch your clutch.
I suppose another quick little one, guys that don't know, gearbox fill, and then obviously your drains on the other side at the bottom. Same thing with the transfer case. Where are we? Fill, and where are we? Down here, drain, if you can see that in the shot there. But yeah, that's pretty much the gearbox ins and outs, little tips and tricks.
Well, just in case people are interested to know, let's just talk about this in now.
So with the clutch, obviously we've got the throw-out bearing. We have put that one on there.
That's the new one.
This is the new one.
Yeah.
We've greased that, greased the pivot point in here, also in here.
Have you got the old one so we can compare?
Yes, so we'll grab that. Pivot point, we put a fair bit of grease on there. It's very common for this to get dry and dusty and actually squeaks. A lot of people think it's the bearing that's failed.
Oh, but it's actually that.
But it's actually that, because if you actually look at the clutch fork through the inspection port here, you'll see the clutch fork wobbling at idle, or just lightly depressed on the pedal, and that's what you're getting an audible noise from. So One thing, we've still got to clean all this, but obviously that's what we're just showing you for.
So so you don't want grease on it?
No, you obviously want it nice, dry, clean, small one. If you're going to put anything very, very lightly, you don't want to contaminate. The last thing you want to do is contaminate a clutch plate.
Okay, so with high impact.
There is roller bearings on there as well. So obviously the spigot bearing goes onto the
okay.
input shaft in here,
Right.
which we'll show you that on the back in the back of the crank as well. So we'll inspect that and we'll grab that bearing and you can have a feel of what your bearings are like there.
Yeah,
so.
cool. These connectors, I was just asking what they're for, and then you mentioned if you get them in the wrong way, because you can do it.
Yeah, or leave them disconnected. Obviously you've got a reverse, a low range and a first gear connector. Obviously the engine ECU wants to know when you're in first gear to reduce the torque, so obviously you're not going to damage the drivetrain.
Or something.
Yeah, so this is something, yeah. And then obviously same thing with low range, but however we have seen if these connectors are left off, the car will permanently lack power.
Okay.
So it'll think you're in first gear all the time.
So it's kind of going into a gearbox limit mode.
Yeah, well in the ECU it has different
limit
torque limits
okay.
for different gears, or when it knows it's in first gear, so to say.
Oh,
so that is an issue that we have seen. So
yeah, is that just for this type of car?
Yeah,
or?
specific to this,
Specific
but
to,
it's not uncommon. Most manual boxes will have like a first gear. As cars have got smarter and newer with ECUs.
Yeah. All right, so how's that looking?
Yeah, look, we'll put it over on the bench. What's this been in the car now? Since about 4,000 Ks?
I think since about 20,000, 30,000.
It was before a trip. We had to air freight it.
Yeah, it was roughly close to 100,000.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, it's fared well. There's not too much wear and what have you, but I mean...
this is pretty normal, right?
Yeah, like there's not, it's wear even on the fingers and all that sort of stuff, but look, it's not...
It's not driven on the highway.
No, yeah. I mean, it's worked hard, but obviously you don't ride the clutch. That's the other token as well. And obviously you know how to use low range and high range. Because it doesn't matter what clutch you've got. If you're bogged and you're trying to get in high range, you'll burn it out.
Yeah, you're going to burn
This
your
is
clutch.
where, you know...
Possibly warp your flywheel.
Yeah, we're going to get heap spots. So, I mean, we'll jump in and have a look at the flywheel, check out the spigot bearing. So the good thing is, obviously you can see the flywheel has still got machine marks in it as well.
Yeah.
So that's what you want to see. Hot spots, you know, it's not too bad. But yeah, there's a couple of little ones, but not. I've seen like some people have, you know, really gotten a pickle on the beach and disintegrated. But you can see the clutch wear here. See all the clutch dust all around. So yeah, we'll put the MPC in it, and then you know, you'll see the pedal effort, and it's got more clamp load than what you had, but it's got more drivability. Yeah,
Satin turbines.
And honestly, it does take a bit to get used to. Like, I'm not saying it is slightly lighter than the factory clutch pedal.
I do like the heavy pedal, so
Yeah,
it is going to take a bit for me to get used to.
So that's what I noticed with your car last night to drive in my car when I'm not used to it.
Yeah.
You know, so that's where it comes down to driving something you're used to. When it goes back in, the biggest thing, obviously, whatever clutch you're fitting, 100% make sure that the flywheel's machined. Don't ever put a clutch on or get a die grinder or emery, or don't take a shortcut. It'll cost you in the long run.
Get a proper machine.
Yeah, definitely.
If you cut the mill out, it's just going to wear it
Correct.
unevenly. Okay, so I've just been crawling around the bin with Simon, who's just gone for a road test, to get this old throw-out bearing out. Went for your lunch too. He didn't eat it all. Ooh.
Dodgy
All right.
lunch bar.
Ah, there goes my Sackwear shirt. Plug for Sackwear there. All right, so this one here has done its dust, as you can hear it.
Yep, can you hear that one?
So the reason why we are changing the clutch, or I'm opting to change the clutch, is because we got the whole thing out. We've got the whole gearbox out. We've got this out. Now, this has got wear. I reckon I could still drive on this. You probably reckon I could still drive on this.
Yeah, could do.
But the thing is, where I take my car, I want to know that, you know, I want to know 100% I'm going to get there and get home. So with things that we pull out, like bearings and stuff, we're just going to replace it.
Well, it's all the same labour frame to do it all.
So that is why I replace a lot of things. This comes with a flywheel. This uses the factory flywheel, I'm pretty sure. That's why it's machined, right?
Yep. So when we originally fitted this, I don't know, years ago now, when we first got the car, we re-machined the factory flywheel. This clutch here, the reason it's got a billet flywheel is the diaphragm is a completely different drilling to the factory Toyota diaphragm pattern that is on here. This flywheel has dual patterns. As you can see, there's multiple holes on here. One to suit this aftermarket diaphragm, from MPC, and then obviously one to suit the Toyota one. So if you ever were in a pickle...
Hang on, so I could put a Toyota clutch on this?
Correct.
If this clutch was to go out in the middle of nowhere, and I could source one of these, I could source a factory Toyota from a mine or something to get home.
The other bonus, obviously, for us fitting it, we have no downtime in machining a flywheel. So we pull your flywheel off, whereas the old one you have to take to a machine shop, get machined, come back. This one, off, bolted on, you know.
And obviously, we're throwing a new throw-up bearing in there.
And spigot bearing in there as well.
All right, so quickly just to give the audience a bit more. You now pulled this out, you're now going to put this in. Now I know dirt is one issue, so I'll let you take the way of the dirt.
Obviously I've got quite filthy hands, I'm still cleaning up flywheel bolts and what have you. Cleanliness, when you're putting the clutch back together, don't want to contaminate any friction surfaces, and obviously removing excess grease from input splines, and then also bleeding the clutch, and don't over adjust the clutch.
Oh, bleeding the clutch?
Yes, because no one bleeds it. Everyone gets their car serviced, you actually look in the logbook, probably never ever gets flushed. You know, look through your logbook, it's just one thing that always gets overlooked. The brake fluid flush will get sold to you.
Yeah, okay.
But
there's one more tip you need. You've done the cleaning, you've done the flushing.
Maybe change the gearbox oil. That's one thing that sometimes overlooks. Then that way you've done the whole gearbox, you've bled the clutch, you've done the gearbox oil, and you do them. If you're doing one, you do the other.
Do the other, yeah. Why are we going for this one?
A lighter pedal feel, slightly lighter than factory, a more controlled friction material rather than being an on or off. If you have an aggressive friction material that has more tendency to be an on or off characteristic, so this will have more of a factory characteristic. Yeah, and obviously it is the largest clamp force on the market. Yeah. But on his car, believe it or not, he does it to me every time, is how many days till we go away?
Before a trip.
We're a week off.
Yeah.
We air freighted this clutch 5-6 years ago.
Three and a bit.
Actually, it would be, because, we needed, this at the time was one of the biggest, and actually,
I had noise and I had slippage on my factory clutch.
That's correct, because the early models were just notorious for slipping.
Yeah. All right, well, you better get on with it. I want in the car. I've got to drive this and get my suspension sorted now.
All right, the list goes on. Yes. I think we're getting more and more of your car apart.
Yeah, I know.
We're supposed to be getting it back together.
Yeah, well, don't hang too much crap on me because you're going to hit your head on that pretty soon.
All right, let's get on with it.
So basically, like tightening up your wheel nuts.
Yeah, in a star pattern, so to say.
But in a longer, drawn-out scenario because you're trying to line up the middle.
Yep. And not all, don't wind the bolt all the way in one go. So do a bit, do a bit, do a bit, and then it pulls it down evenly.
And you'll see the diaphragm here, the fingers, you want them all to come down evenly. So if you pull this bolt down, you'll see this diaphragm moving. So because you're changing
because it's uneven.
Yeah, uneven. So you want to ideally bring it down together.
All right.
So obviously we just got to torque those bolts up now. So, and away we go.
Good.
On the spot, tip of the day, mechanic tip of the day.
Get your car done long before the trip.
Are you having a shot at me?
No, I'm doing your car because we're finding other things. But yes, this is true. I haven't even started my car.
His car's out there, and he's got to do that after this car goes out.
So we were here, what, till 9:30 last night?
Yeah.
We've spent 2 weeks.
Well, you had the car for 2 weeks.
You might actually be taking the 200.
So I've been driving a 200 around, his wife's 200. I don't think she's going to let me do that.
No. I don't,
We'll see.
See what happens. We both might be going in the 200.
I shouldn't laugh, should I? Because it's probably going to happen.
We might get to check out that rhino hide.
Before I wrap this video up, hey Travis, you're trying to walk away. What have you still got to do on your vehicle? And we have, how many days now? We've got 7 days before we hit the highway.
Do you want the short list or the long list?
Just give us a list.
Water tank, mounts for 2 fridges, get Wayne's boxes in there, possibly something for shade so I don't end up looking like a tomato, and some wheel arches, and my rear boxes under the tray.
Is that it?
Yeah, that should keep me and someone quite busy.
How's the tip go again? Don't do things, I think, that's what Simon said earlier?
Yeah.
Don't do things
we did plan
days before you go.
How long have you been back now?
About a week and a half.
Yeah. We've done a lot on your car, and Yeah, it's...
Nothing on yours.
Well, the thing is, I suppose once you start something, we commit to finishing. I suppose that's the biggest thing, rather, like you say. There's no point, like, half doing it. You might as well just commit to it. Like, we pulled away from the brakes and the bearings. We plan to do them next service.
Good tip then. Only do what's important to do.
Prioritise, which is what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to work out what I really need.
Prioritise, because, well, look, wheel bearings are priority,
Correct.
but we check them, they're fine.
We're ruining the service.
Don't need to do them.
The only reason we were looking at it is because possibly we're going to do the brakes.
Yeah, well brakes.
But we're going to do them together to be
I've
efficient.
got enough brakes. We don't need to do them. Prioritise. I guess that's about it. Obviously, suspension has to be done.
Yeah, that's a safety items.
Safety items is number
And
one.
not that we're walking away from brakes, but like you just explained.
Safety and reliability, you want to be able to get home because that's another safety factor.
So the first thing actually what I did do was just put fuel tank in mine, so I had the range, because you boys have all got...
Oh, yes, yeah. All right. Well, I hope you guys learn from this. Don't do stuff a couple of weeks before. Do it even...
Should make a really good video if something does go wrong.
Man, it's not going to matter. I'm still going to be doing this next time. There's going to be something else. There's going to be something else. I think I'm going to cut the trips down and make them longer. I think the audience prefers the longer trips anyway.
I think it's better to have more time frame on the car as well, rather than shorter trips in between.
And not be so stressed out leading up to the trip, you know?
But that doesn't, like you just said, there's always something you don't want to do anyway.
Yeah,
so,
that's it.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for watching, guys. You can subscribe somewhere here, and if you'd like to support the creation of content, patreon.com/RonnieDale, and watch this video down here with all the wiring that's going in the vehicle, or that has gone in the vehicle. Cheers. See ya.